Good morning, everyone. We are here at Advent House. This is where I'm physically based, and we are about to begin our first Adventist Christian Fellowship info session, where we'll be talking about the basics of ACF, this ministry, what it entails. I have a board right here to my right that describes some of the things, or lists some of the things that I want to definitely touch on today. One being, in general, what is it? What is Adventist Christian Fellowship? Giving you a brief history, a brief overview of the context here in the Georgia-Cumberland region. So that Georgia-Cumberland is East Tennessee and Georgia. And also talking about what healthy DNA looks like, the things that make up healthy DNA for an Adventist Christian Fellowship group. And then talking about how you can help, how you, whoever you are, who are listening, who are watching, can help. And then finally taking some questions. So I'm just going to give a little time for anyone else who needs to hop on to do that, and then we will dive in. So pretend there's some hold music here. All right, well, let's get going here. My name is Michaela Lawrence Jeffrey, and I am the director for Adventist Christian Fellowship here in the Georgia-Cumberland Conference. So Georgia-Cumberland is East Tennessee and Georgia, and it's been about almost a 7-year journey. It'll be 7 years as of this September. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I got into this space that may be helpful in helping you understand how perhaps you can fit into this space too. When I was in seminary, I had shared with one of my professors how much I'd enjoyed my time at the University of Illinois in Chicago, where I did my master's in English literature. And she knew that I'd enjoyed that experience. I'd learned a lot from that experience. And when she knew that a particular course was being offered specifically in public campus ministry, she said, "Hey, you probably want to check this out." So that summer, I took a course that oriented me to this ministry, to Adventist Christian Fellowship, something I didn't know existed before that time. And that course, which I took then more courses the following summer as well, really helped me see myself in this form of ministry. While I was at the University of Illinois, I didn't have this kind of a connection with fellow Adventist students on my campus, I'd found another group of Christians to spend time with, to do Bible study with. And I promised myself that wherever I ended up in the future, if I was next to or close to a public campus, I would do my best to connect with the Adventist students there. And so when this course came up and I got to know more about it all, it just sort of fit, it worked. And long story short, when I was wrapping up my time at the seminary, this is the position that I applied for. It's the only position that I applied for. It was one that I could really see myself in, really see myself enjoying, and it has been quite the journey. So that's a bit about me. As in terms of my role here in the Georgia Cumberland Conference, I work to facilitate the growth of Adventist Christian Fellowship chapters, as we call them, ACF chapters, on these different public campuses. So right now we've had this last school year, 9 active groups, and I'll post some information about the specifics of those groups, but you can actually check out those groups via our website. And so I'm going to just do a little screen sharing with you now so that you can see the website that we use. It is acfgcc.org, and it is where you can find more information about how to do ACF, how it works, how it functions, and where the different ACF chapters are located here in the Georgia Cumberland Conference. It gives you some how-to tips, some guides for starting a chapter and things like that. So that's hopefully some helpful information for you as you move forward in your connection with Adventist Christian Fellowship. Some more of the sort of background of what I do in this context. So in helping facilitate the growth of these chapters on their campuses, I help resource them. So literally with, it could be Bible studies if that's what they're in need of. It could be what we call our encouragement cards. These are like a 3x4 stack of cards that all have different themes, like they're 3 sets. They have a different theme each set and corresponding Bible verses for that theme. And those are easy things to give out. They're on a ring, and they're easy to hand out when you're doing tabling events, that sort of thing. Also, just to have in your backpack as you're going to and from class, you find someone who may need some encouragement, you hand one out. They're beautifully designed, and our students have enjoyed using them themselves and also passing them out to others on their campus. Other ways of resourcing, providing financial support where necessary for students to do ministry on their campus. Students, last I checked, did not have large bank accounts for spending money on various things. And so part of my role is to help give them financial support, whether it is directly to the student group, so they spend money, they get reimbursed, or one thing that we're trying to do more of is working in collaboration with a local church. So if you're part of a local church, this may be one of the things that you want to think through. One of the things you want to talk to your board, your treasurer about is how can we be sort of not just a bank. Okay, we don't want students to feel like they just come to you for money, but how can we hold funds for them? And more than that, how can we help them connect to the life of our church? And how can we support them on their campus? So I help resource them, help connect them with local churches that they may not already be connected with, to provide that foundational support for them. And also helping them connect with Adventist faculty or staff on their campus. These faculty or staff serve as just pivotal people, essential people for the life, for the health of the ACF chapter. They are the constant. Students change. The look of the student group changes from year to year as new students come in and old students graduate. And so so helping connect them to that stable figure, and that figure who can also serve as a mentor, an encourager, and a resourcer in their own way, is vital. Um, and that all pertains to the healthy DNA, we'll talk about a little bit later. So other things that I do to support these ACF chapters, I'm actually based at one of them. And if you see that picture right behind me there, I am literally in my office at Advent House. That is a picture, an old picture of Advent House back when it was called Terrace House. A little history of this house is back in the 1980, essentially. The house was put on the market for sale through an estate sale. Used to be owned by a professor here at UT, and a couple of the things he wanted was for it to be used for students. No smoking, no drinking. Ta-da, we fit. So some church members, local church members, along with a conference and just a group of people who really saw the vision, pursued the purchase of the house, and the rest is kind of history. This house has served in many ways, the ministry that happened here has served in many ways as a support for the growth of ACF throughout North America. And that's an exciting tidbit. Other ways that I help support, I try to, because I'm also based here at University of Tennessee, it can be a little difficult to get to all of the other campuses, but I try to get to at least a couple of campuses each school year, get to know more of what their campus context is all about, get to know their student leaders more intentionally. And when it comes to resourcing, when it comes to training, we have a fall retreat called Leadership Reboot that's meant specifically for student leaders to help them get an understanding of their particular role and how that role can be fulfilled this school year. And then in the spring or late winter, end of February, beginning of March, we have what's called Connect. It's our leadership conference for all ACF students. And initially it was held here at UT. The last few years it's been held at Kahada. And thinking about bringing it back to the campus, we'll see. There are great advantages to either space. So that's a bit of how I help connect the purpose, the mission of this ministry and the students who are truly the life of this ministry. And we're hoping to see more and more growth. We do have an advisory team that's newly formed this year that is working toward these wonderful goals of really helping support our students where they are. They many times are on their campus, not because they're trying to run away from an Adventist campus, but because perhaps finances are tight. Perhaps their major is right here and this is home. And more students are staying local, whether local means exactly in their hometown or in their particular state. And so anyway, there are a variety of reasons why they're here, but they're here and we want to support them. So this is what ACF is all about. This is how I fit into it more directly. And I want to also give you a sense for campus ministry when it comes to the public sphere. The Adventist Church, we have several universities that are owned and run through our church, through the larger body of our church. And those ministries, those universities, those colleges have chaplains working on those campuses, just like there are chaplains working here on these public campuses. In this context, they refer to us as campus ministers. And campus ministry on public campuses has been happening for decades. In other denominations, other faith groups have been doing this for a very, very long time. Within Adventism, we're still quite young. I would say in terms of being a formal entity, as ACF is, we're still quite young. Just here in the last decade or so have we been a formal entity. So there's still a lot of discovery, a lot of groundwork, a lot of growth, a lot of potential. There's just potential just booming. And we're excited about that, excited to see that and be part of that. Um, so yeah, campus ministry in the public sphere it's a very interesting space. I haven't been a chaplain on an Adventist campus, but from my own experience as a student on an Adventist campus throughout undergrad, I know that the resourcing for ministry, the just the opportunities for students to step in to connect are numerous. And when it comes to the public sphere, it's a public sphere. So the school isn't set up to do theological training, to do spiritual guidance of any sort, and that's fine. That's not what it was set up to do. But so those of us who come along as campus ministers in this sphere have an interesting work in that we are doing our best to intentionally connect with the university, making sure that they aren't just aware of our presence, but appreciate our presence. We want to be a blessing not just to the Adventist students in our midst, but to the campus as a whole. And so part of that means connecting with the university. And I'm glad to be part of a university community that actually doesn't just recognize the presence of many of us on this campus from different faith groups, but recognizes our organization. We have what's called the Campus Ministers Council, and this council is made up of, I would say, 30-odd practitioners, campus ministers here on the campus. And so actually does connect with us. We meet twice a month throughout the school year, and once a semester, the Dean of Students office and that larger entity connect with us in a very intentional way through a meeting, and we also participate in other spaces in other areas of campus life. For example, we participate in what has become the last 2 years now an annual memorial service for students, faculty, and staff who have died throughout the last year. And we're asked to be part of that through praying for the service. And we also here at UT still pray for football games. It's no longer live, it's pre-recorded, but still a pretty fun opportunity. And if something, unfortunate were to take place on the campus, where, say, we had, just any sort of catastrophic event were to take place where students needed, immediate nurture, the university would call on us to be part of that. So this is a great opportunity in that way. And one of the areas for growth and potential that we have in this area of Georgia Cumberland, and certainly throughout North America, is to really build those connections on all of these different campuses, really do what we can to place people who can specifically serve as campus ministers, whether that's their full-time endeavor or something that they're doing in a part-time fashion. It's great to be able to say, here's our representative for Adventist Christian Fellowship. They are legitimately part of this ministry. They're legitimately recognized by our local church conference. And it's the university appreciates that, and it just gives more clarity to this ministry and more connectivity for our students. So anyway, that's a bit of the overview. We are on, like I said, 9 campuses right now. We have been on 10 in the past. I'll try to list off those schools for you, or actually I will go back to our website and show you these campuses. I'll share my screen here so that you can see the list here. So we have ETSU, Emory, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Georgia State, KSU, Tennessee Tech, UGA, UTC, UTK, and University of West Georgia. So these are 10. In the past, we've had all 10. This year, we didn't have an active group at Tennessee Tech. And things like that kind of happen from year to year, and that's why I want to talk about what a healthy DNA looks like. Every now and then, I shouldn't say from year to year, but every few years, we, because of the lack of connectivity that we still have, that we want to really try to remedy, we have campuses where the group isn't as strong, there are not as many students connected, they don't have perhaps a strong faculty or staff presence, and or maybe just because of the school's location, there just literally aren't that many Adventist students there. So it's harder to really build a ministry and sustain that ministry in the long run. And so from time to time, those such groups kind of drop off for a year, and we hate for that to happen. Like, truly, I met a student a few years ago who went to one of the schools that we've had a chapter on and didn't know anything about it. She had just graduated that year. I met her at a camp meeting, and she said, "Oh, I had no idea this existed." And we really want to do what we can to not make that the story of those in those Adventist students we know are at these universities. So that's a bit about that. Now let's talk about healthy DNA, and I want to take a moment to pull up a slide here that will help you and me in clearly getting a clear sense of how this can all look. Okay, so we're just going to take a moment here to pull up a slide. Sometimes going off the top of our heads isn't the most effective thing. So we want to pull up this slide. A healthy DNA is just essential, and there probably, I know there've got to be a variety of ways that campus ministry can happen, that ACF can look from region to region. It doesn't have to look exactly the same, and a lot of that's going to be based on the particular uniqueness of the school. No campus is alike in everything. Okay, there's some similarities, but each campus has its unique culture, and that culture helps us determine how the ACF chapter can most effectively function. So we want to be mindful of that. We want to be just sort of respectful of that. We don't want to act as if that is not a thing, because if we act that way, then we miss golden opportunities, and we have all these blind spots that we're not aware of because they're blind spots. So campus ministry doesn't have to look the same on these different campuses. The way the campus functions doesn't have to be the same, but there are a few things that truly make a huge difference. Truly do. And so, sorry, I thought I had a slide. I don't actually have a slide. One moment. I have a note, which is fine too. Up that note. So yeah, as I was saying, campus ministry can look different. The way the ACF chapter functions can look very different from campus to campus. If the ministry doesn't have these three things, I believe, from my experience here, from what I've seen happen, and this isn't even based on things that I've uniquely done to like I haven't made an active effort to make this happen per se. Like, this is what I've witnessed. So a thriving DNA, number one, has an on-campus presence. So when we think of an ACF chapter, many times it's easy for us to think within the local church context, because that's the immediate context we understand and are engaged with. So we often think, okay, if I'm going to start an ACF chapter, I'm going to, it's going to be linked to the university. Linked to the church. And so it kind of essentially becomes another form of youth or young adult ministry. And I like to use the term young adult when it comes to our university students, because they truly are young adults. So this ACF chapter can kind of become another young adult ministry, and in that way kind of taken over by the church. And I want to absolutely encourage the connection of the local church to the campus, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But the on-campus presence is vital. The groups that thrive actually live and breathe on campus. The groups that thrive. So this isn't just, a good DNA. Like, this is a thriving DNA. The groups that really thrive, that maintain existence from year to year very consistently, regardless of student turnover, the groups that thrive have an on-campus presence. They regularly meet on campus, literally on the campus. They do things on the campus. They're not just in their own little sphere. They're not only meeting at a local church. They're not only meeting at a restaurant, down the way that perhaps is convenient to all of their home spaces. They are meeting on campus. They're doing things on campus. So whether it's a, regular weekly Bible study that takes place, 7 p.m., noon, whatever it may be on the campus, or whether it's that they regularly do outreach on the campus, simple ways of connecting with their fellow students, whatever it is, they are regularly, literally on campus. So that's one aspect of the of a thriving DNA. So not a group that only meets at church, only does stuff at church. No. That may be, church life is part of it, but they are regularly on campus. And not just on campus to pass out materials of some sort, but on campus building relationships with their classmates, building relationships in other social spheres, really being a part of the life of the university in a way that is meaningful, a way that's relevant. So on-campus presence. Number two, the second aspect of a thriving DNA is that they have an active faculty or staff advisor. And when I say active, I mean active. This person is a regular part of their meeting times. They don't necessarily have to be at everything. I don't think they need to be at everything, but they need to be present. They need to be clearly available, clearly there, the life of the group. This is someone who is actively connecting with the student leadership team or the exec board or whatever the term is used there. This person, helps mentor that group, helps them get a realistic sense for the things they're planning and whatnot. So they have an active faculty or staff advisor. And why do I stress a faculty or staff person versus, any church member who wants to come in and help? As a faculty or staff member, that person has a level of ownership regarding the university itself. And that is a very important component. That person is able to help the students understand more of their place in the university sphere. That person is able to give the students a realistic look at what they're doing in relationship to the campus culture and the needs of the campus, that sort of thing. And on a very practical kind of level, that person is often then able to open doors, literally. Sometimes a group may have a classroom scheduled for a Bible study, and things have to shift just like that. It's needed for an actual class or whatever it may be, and the university's functions, of course, would trump that. So then a faculty or staff member would have more than likely access to another space. that could be used in maybe a smaller space. It may have its inconveniences on some level, but still very much a convenient connection there. And a faculty or staff advisor, because of their relationship with the university already, because that's already established, they already have a stronger sense of what it means to be, what it means to live and breathe on the public campus. So, and I could probably think of several more pros of having someone who's actually a faculty staff advisor. But one of those is not just a pro; it's a necessity on most campuses for the group. If the group is a legitimate student organization, which we encourage students to become, or groups to become, we don't just want them to be ACF in name. We want them to actually become a student organization on their campus. And if that's the case, they need to have a faculty or staff advisor. So that's just part of the way it flows. So thriving DNA, on-campus presence, active faculty or staff advisor, and third, they have a spiritual home as a group. Okay. This is a trickier one depending on location, because it's very location dependent. For the schools that are not in the heart of a big city, the options for churches are fewer. The chances that the students there are close to home are fewer. So it's more likely a space where a lot of the students there are from out of town. So the chances of them going home every Sabbath are slimmer, which means those groups have an opportunity to bond more over the weekend. And Sabbath is a very typical time for that bonding, and in many ways kind of an essential time for bonding, because that's one of the things that is very unique about us as Adventists. And so to be able to rally around that uniqueness is important for students. Whether they think of it in those terms or not, it's an important aspect of their life. And so for those groups who are away from a huge cityscape such as Atlanta, and are more prone to really formalize as a group, just hang out together, the spiritual home is typically going to be a local church. Okay, as a group, they will more than likely go to one particular church, and do that consistently because of their distance from home. This is trickier, like I said, when they're in a big city like Atlanta. There are many more churches. Many of the students who go to school in the Atlanta area are from the Atlanta area. And so the chances of them deciding to change churches, very slim and unreasonable, typically. So if you have, say, an ACF chapter comprised of 7 regulars, these are 7 people that consistently come out to most events. And say, they go to 3 different churches in the Atlanta area, whether it's Atlanta proper, or, just kind of outskirts, the suburbs right outside of Atlanta. If they have home churches, that's where they're going. So every given Sabbath, you have 3 groups of students, so to speak. And so it's harder for them as a group to have a spiritual home, which makes it that much more essential that they come together for some sort of Bible study on a regular basis. Because, however, of their more mobile existence, because many of these students are driving into school or taking transit into school for the day and then leaving, they're not staying on the campus, having some sort of a spiritual space, some sort of a Bible study space or a prayer space that's regular is harder. It's more challenging, and makes it that much more crucial that they have somebody who can sort of be the rallying point. From year to year, sometimes there is a student leader who serves as that person because of just who they are naturally. They can be that person easily, but that's not always the case. So that's a challenge, that spiritual home, finding that place that they all come to, and where they seek God together. So whether that's a local church, whether that's through their weekly Bible study, whatever it may be, and those I would say would be the most typical too, there needs to be that rallying point. If when it comes to a spiritual home, a group has both a local church they all attend and a weekly Bible study that they're part of, their connection to each other is that much deeper in some ways because they simply hang out more. So anyway, finding a spiritual home that's intergenerational makes even more of a difference. It keeps the students connected to kind of the realities of life. One of those being that we're not always going to be in a space that's just us, just our age group, So if you think about the typical student, they're 18 to, if they're in grad school, say roughly 18 to 24, okay? So that's your university age group. So if someone is always and only gathering with that age group, they're then disconnected from the reality that a local church typically provides. And in providing that reality, there's also provided a stronger foundation for growth, not just spiritual growth, but emotional, mental, social growth as well. So those are the three things. On-campus presence. That's not simply passing out tracts, truly, they're part of the campus community. So an on-campus presence, active faculty or staff advisor, and a spiritual home as a group. Those are some basics. How can you help? So much depends on your particular role. If you are an Adventist faculty or staff member on any public campus, I would love to hear from you. Please call me, 865-522-3193. I'll try to throw that up here. Let's see if I can do that. 865. Let's see if this will work for me. Okay. I don't know if it's up. Anyway, you can also find all my contact information on the website, acfgcc.org. But yeah, contact me. I'd love to hear from you. If you know of any faculty or staff members who you believe would be great supports to our students, I'd love to hear from you. I don't think we can have too many people supporting our students on the campus. So even if a group already has an active faculty or staff advisor, having another person to serve as a co-advisor it's still invaluable. Okay, I would love to hear from you. If you are a local church member and you're wondering, okay, what can we do? I don't even know the students that are in my congregation. One thing you could do is just start some consistent advertising. Say, for the next 2 months, we're going to promote a get-together for our students. If you know that there are students there during the summer, for many of you that may not be the case, but for many of you that may be. If you know that they're there, provide something for them. Simply maybe a potluck if your church is a conducive space for that, or inviting them to your home and connecting there. But certainly finding ways that are going to be simple to execute, meaningful to execute, and effective ways of building relationships. So you don't want to have 30 people at your house. More than likely, they're not going to really connect. Have a smaller group. 10 maximum, or maybe 12. Maybe that's a more biblical number. They're both biblical. Anyway, have a smaller grouping and really get to know each other that way. But putting something in your bulletin, letting students know that, hey, this is a space that that wants to support you, wants to be here for you, and here are some ways. And I'm happy to brainstorm. So again, 865-522-3193, or you can email me, mlawrence@gccsda.org or .com, mlawrence@gccsda.com. If you are a student, say maybe you're an alumnus, you've graduated from a public university, you've seen the list, you know where these groups are, you may have some insight into the culture of your campus, what works, what doesn't. I would love to talk with you about that. I would love to hear your thoughts on what you experienced as a student there. Maybe you were part of an ACF chapter, maybe you weren't. Either way, I'd love to hear your thoughts. It can really, your thoughts, your input, your insights can really help us understand more of how to move forward. You may know for sure that, let's say there's a house for sale, and you want to rally your church members to support that endeavor. Hey, I totally applaud you and encourage you if that's something that your church can handle. Advent House is a ministry of our local church. It is one that has a board that is it's comprised of mainly board members or church members from a couple of area churches, mainly the Knoxville First Seventh-day Adventist Church, but also the College Hill Church. And so if you're familiar with those two churches, you know they are part of two different conferences, but both conferences exist in this region, and so it just makes sense. We also have a couple of faculty members from the university here that are part of our board. So this is a local church space, a local church baby, a dream. It was birthed through the local church and is very much supported. Socially supported, our church members do connect with our students, and it's also financially supported by our church. Our church dedicates funds every month. It's mapped out, part of the yearly budget. Every month, Advent House receives funds from the church. So if you know that this would be a vibrant part of the ministry in the locale that you're familiar with, by all means, get that conversation started with your local church. If you're a student, and all these ideas are not at all exhaustive. There are 1,000 more, at least. If you're a student, how can you help? What can you do? One of the biggest struggles we have is finding the Adventist students. It's like, I want to create this big billboard and post it on 75 or something. Are you an Adventist student at a public university? Call me. Finding Adventist students can be a challenge, especially for groups that don't have an active faculty or staff advisor, or don't have someone who can specifically say, I am the campus minister for this group. Another reason why we need more campus ministers. Who'd like to volunteer? It is very advantageous here at UTK. The school still collects religious affiliation info from students. They choose to share that information, and I don't think it applies to transfers. I don't think transfers have any kind of option when they're registering each year to fill that information in. From talking to a couple of students, that doesn't seem to be the case. But for those incoming students, freshmen, that kind of thing, they have an opportunity to declare their religious affiliation. And so each semester, we get a list of students who have stated that they're Seventh-day Adventist. Now, I don't meet all of those students. We contact them, but they don't all come for various reasons. And not some of the students that I have met aren't on that list. So we know that from year to year, there are 40 to 50 Adventist students at least here at the University of Tennessee. And on each of these campuses, there are bound to be several. On some campuses, there are going to be more than on others. But getting that list, that religious preference list probably isn't part of every university's practice. And for those for which it is a practice, they're not going to give that list up to just anybody. They want to give that list to someone who they know is actually serving in a legitimate position that works with this unique population. So that said, and even if we get our hands on that list, we need students, we need you to spread the word, to get people informed as much as possible. If you know students who are going to one of these universities this coming fall, let us know. Let me know. Let them know about ACF. Share contact information with them. In the next couple of months, we'll be updating the website with the student leaders who will be serving for this next school year. The current student leaders are all for this now past school year, 2015-16. But we'll be updating that, so you'll see that list. You'll know who is who in terms of student leaders. And so that'll be a quick connection point for incoming students, whether they're freshmen or transfers, whether they're in their third or fourth year or first or second, doesn't matter, easy connection point. And as current students in particular, you can give us a sense for what you know will work. So here's a form of advertising that will just, do we need to use social media 1,000 times more? Probably. What are those ways? Instagram, Snapchat, what are those ways that we can more effectively get the word out? And what are those ways you'd be willing to help with? We don't just want to know what we can do. We want to know who can help us do it. And so if you're able to help us do it, that's awesome. If you're willing to be part of a road team, you know how performers have a road team, a road crew. ACF needs a road crew. We'd love to have a team of students who are willing from year to year to do a little bit of church hopping. I don't support church hopping as a regular endeavor, but for the sake of helping local churches understand more of ACF and get to know and see, those who are part of it, I encourage a little bit of church hopping. So maybe once a semester, maybe twice a semester, depending on availability, having a crew that just, goes to this church, then to that church. And maybe we're able to do the service or at least have a bit of a spotlight or do an afternoon program of some sort, something, There are 1,000+ ideas. These are just a few of them. If you are a parent, I know this is a tricky age for telling your children what to do. You may already know about ACF. You may have told your student about ACF, and they're just kind of like, yeah. They may be in their third year, and when you say, have you connected? They say, well, I went once. And you're just like, what's going on? I have a child. She is but a toddler. So I cannot say that I resonate with the frustrations of a parent of a college student. I can only imagine those frustrations. And I want to encourage you to, if you know of a student that is connected with an ACF chapter, connecting them with your student would be a great step. But also inviting your student to make the connection themselves. So if you know, for example, that your student is going to be coming to University of Tennessee in the fall, give your student my number. All right, and let them make that connection, or share with me their information and let me connect directly with them. I know that they'll appreciate being, I guess, more part of the process in many ways. They may not realize it, but they'll appreciate it. And so yeah, and just let people know. If you know about ACF, let other people know about ACF. Just talk about it more. We have a Facebook page, ACF GCC, on Facebook. Just do a quick search for us, ACF GCC, and you should find us without a problem. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram as well, ACF GCC, both those spaces. Getting the word out. That's one of the biggest things, but also helping us think more realistically about what we are doing and what needs to be done. Take a look at our website. One of the plans for this summer that I have is to revamp it. We've had it now for 4 years maybe, maybe 5, it's time for something fresher, newer. But it's also time for a little bit more functionality. So I'll be working through that this summer and getting some input on that for sure from our advisory team and from any of you who are willing to share your thoughts on what could make it more effective. Look through our website, look at the how-tos. Let us know, does this make sense to you? Is this something you resonate with, the way it's described, the way it's laid out? How can we better communicate? There's always room for improvement. I am one of those people. Status quo what? No. Let's keep on moving. So this is something new that we're trying to do, and in terms of these info sessions. And the more questions you have, the more feedback you have, the more we can move forward even more fruitfully. A couple questions that I have received. One I received was, is this really an entity of the conference? And so I wanted to share with you that indeed we are an entity of the conference. And I will do that in part by pulling up our page on the conference's website. So if you go to gccsda.com, you will get to the conference website, and then if you click under ministries, you will find Adventist Christian Fellowship. So this is us. This is the ministry of this local conference. There you see my face. There you see the list of student groups. You see our mission, and you see some other info there as well. So indeed, we are a ministry of the Georgia Cumberland Conference, and beyond that, so that you get a sense for the work beyond this region, we are connected to this larger scape. If you go to acflink.org, this is ACF in the North American division, and upcoming just over a week's time or not even a week, sorry, just a few days, is the annual ACF Institute. It'll be held in Houston, Texas, and you can find out more information there at acflink.org. But yeah, we're part of that larger entity as well. So ACF is nationwide. ACF is local to Georgia Cumberland. ACF is also in several other areas in terms of being a local conference ministry. There are 100 plus ACF chapters across the country, and that's just a smidgen of the public colleges and universities across this nation. So plenty of work to do. Like I said, oodles of potential. Another question that I've received is, can I start an ACF chapter if there isn't one already on my campus? Absolutely, yes. If you go to our website, and I'll take you back there again. If you go to our website, you can, under the how-tos or the resources link, you can, if you click on getting organized, you will find exactly what you're looking for. So I'll just share that screen with you here. And there you have quick tips. You also have starting an ACF chapter, local church, how to connect with a school near you, and more. So if you just click on any of these talking about links, it'll bring up all the different things related to those topics. And those are the main topics that we have under the resources section. We're just about through. I want to invite you to join us next month and the month following, so June and July, June 22nd and July 20th. We'll have 2 more of these info sessions for the summer. We will post this video on our website and also on our Facebook page and wherever else we can splatter it, also on the gccsda.com site, on our ministry page there. and just try to get the word out more about this ministry, how you can be a part of this ministry. And we pray that, or we know that if we're prayerful in our efforts, the Lord will just infinitely bless. And so excited to see where this continues to go, how God continues to work. Thank you so much for being part of this info session. It's all an experiment. It's all a new thing. Thank you for being part of something new. And we'll talk to you in June. Blessings.